A lot of us in the businesses and the way we run our lives, that we have repetition. We do things over and over and over again. And we get lost in our repetition. And so the main thing I want you to take away from this, if anything, is that how can I look at my life and how can I maybe experiment with things and make it ever so slightly different? Not completely different, we're not throwing everything out the window, but ever so slightly different, and see how can I improve. The second reason why I did that is because I like to live my life through this version of, or this acronym called GTL. So GTL to me stands for Guess, Test, and Learn. Guess, test, and learn. A pseudo-scientific method. A boiled down scientific method where first you come up with a guess, then you test it, and then you learn from it. And I believe that that's something that we can apply into design, we can apply into programming, and we can apply into our personal life. Guess, test, and learn. So, I started off with an experiment. And what I wanted to guess is I guessed that if I do some interactive way, then I'm going to get your eyeballs on me and you're going to be more engaged. And hopefully you're going to go out and talk about how amazing Miles is at presenting. That's at least my guess. I'm hoping, but that's completely arrogant of me, right? Then I'm testing that. I tested it by making you all stand up and be my guinea pigs. Like the evil Mr. Burns, right? And then later, I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to sit around and reflect and see, well, did I get any feedback? Did they actually enjoy what I talked about? And was it engaging enough, right? Guess, test, and learn. The basis of growth hacking. So you're probably like, Miles, I still don't have any idea what growth hacking is. You haven't even said the word growth hacking very much. Like, who are growth hackers and what do they do? Well, growth hackers to me are unicorns. They're entrepreneurial men and women who, like the Renaissance, like to experiment and try all sorts of different things. They're part designer, they're part scientist, they're part developer, they're part psychologist. They're all sorts of different things. Now, a lot of you, by me saying that, and a lot of developers I know, because I'm a developer too, is some people shut down when I just said unicorn. Because what happens is that in this day and age, we like to put people in boxes. And often a lot of us like to put ourselves into one particular box. We want to be a developer, and we're afraid of having a bigger box. And a growth hacker and unicorns like to have as many boxes as possible and not snuggle up into a small box like this cat. And if you don't believe this, if you don't think that there's this kind of dichotomy of jack of all trades versus unicorns, you can go on Stack Overflow, you can look online. There's all sorts of quotes that if you're a person of jack of all trades, you're a master of everything but an expert of none, or maybe I said that wrong, backwards. But we have this idea of an us versus them, jack of all trades, unicorns versus ninja masters, front-end developer masters, graphic design masters, all sorts of masters that are really good at one particular thing. And we even do this so much so that we start making memes about it in technology. We start making comments and satire. And I completely agree with this statement. I'm more of a front-end developer, but I'm also a back-end developer too as well, so I'm a growth hacker, right? But we come up with memes, and we try to put people into boxes, front-end versus back-end, that one is better than the other. But where did we learn this? Was it through the customs that we were growing up with, the toys that we played with, our parents and how they interacted with us? Now, I personally believe that all of these things are true, but I also believe that it's perpetuated in our school systems. So I work with GeekWise Academy, and I'm in the school systems all the time. And the reason why I believe this is because you may or may not know this, but our education system, at least for high school, is based off of a 150-year-old tradition, a factory method of education. There's actually a term for that, factory education method or model. Okay, so what happened is way back when, and we started to look at the world like a factory, assembly plants, and we start to model that. And somewhere in all of our, if we grew up in the United States, you probably went to school, K through 6th grade, and you probably were in a classroom where you did all sorts of different disciplines in one class. You did art, you did science, and a good teacher would design units that would say, hey, you know what? We're going to discover the depths of the ocean. And maybe there was an art assignment with a writing assignment. And there was some sort of scientific method, like project that you worked on, but you incorporated all these different things. But yet, somewhere in the line, around 6th and 7th grade, we change our education system from having a place where you learn and grow together, having all sorts of different subjects intermingle with each other, to having distinct subjects. Math, science, art, chemistry. And beyond that, we even shuffle our kids from classroom to classroom on a bell system. So take a look at this classroom and think about how the classroom that you grew up in, and maybe you were sitting in LaRose. Now think about old school factories. We were building people on this methodology of if I shuffle them from this subject to this subject to this subject to this subject, that at the end of 4 years or their 8 or however many years, K through 12, that we're gonna build a person. And this doesn't stop in high school. It goes on to our colleges. If you think about it, the College of Arts versus the College of Science or Engineering, right? You even get degrees, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, us versus them. There are debates to this day about where the money that your college should go to. Should the government be spending money on the arts, or should the government be spending money on STEM? Art versus technology. And there are scholars that have been trying to debate this for years. This is nothing new. And one of them, Edward O. Wilson, actually wrote a book about it. And he wrote something that said, science needs the intuitive and metaphorical power of the arts, and the arts needs the fresh blood of science. So trying to get away from this us versus them mentality. So you're probably like, okay, Miles, I still don't understand why this pertains to growth hacking. I thought we were talking about growth hacking and marketing and all these different things. Don't worry, we're gonna get there, okay? But we take this a step further. We believe, a lot of us believe, that there's a left and right brain, where left brain people are the more creative individuals. Or sorry, left brain people are more analytical, right? Where right brain people are artists. Yeah. They're poets. And that we tend to naturally lean towards one of these, using one side of our brain more than another. And I want to go into where this kind of originated from, where this idea originated from. So back in the 1850s, there were two scientists, Broca and, I always mess this German name up, Bernke, I believe. And they basically just prodded around the human brain, and they discovered that there were two regions on the left hemisphere of your brain that helped or conducted language, okay? And from that, through that discovery, what happened is that popular culture at the time kind of perpetuated this, and artists started to come up with ideas of what does that mean, that a person who has access to their left brain and language, what does that mean, the left versus the right? If we use our left brain versus our right brain. And actually, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is kind of an expression at the time of trying to understand what these guys were talking about, what these scientists had come up with. And then it's been even perpetuated even more. Recently, in 1981, this guy, Roger Spur, who researched epilepsy, he got actually a Nobel Prize for it. And what he did was basically he had patients who suffered from epilepsy, and he would open up the brain and he would sever the connection, a portion of the connection between the right and left hemisphere. And from that, they were able to kind of not have as many epileptic episodes and all these sorts of things. But also what happened was a very interesting symptom, what do you call it? A symptom, right? Or a side effect, sorry. And he would start asking them questions, and he realized that some people wouldn't be able to access part of their left hemisphere, like some sort of motor function that was on their left hemisphere or the right hemisphere. They weren't able to actually do that thing anymore or say that word anymore. And so he came up with this left versus right brain theory, that people naturally use the left side of their brain slightly more or the right brain slightly more. And this is in 1981. And we tend to forget that neuroscience is a new thing, right? And we have this idea of left versus right brain. Neuroscience is actually a relatively new study compared to all the other sciences. But what if I told you that this left versus right brain theory is actually completely wrong? Yes, there are portions of your brain that are housed in your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere that do different motor functions, but no person actually tends to use the left or the right side of the brain more than the other. The University of Utah recently did an MRI study. They were trying to look at basically all sorts of different diseases, mental diseases, and they discovered by scanning over 1,000 people, doing cognitive tests, and looking at 7,000 different regions of the brain, that people did not tend to use the left or the right side of their brain any more or less. That people used it actually equally. No one tended to lean more to the left, being analytical, or more to the right, being more creative. But this is completely false. Now, that doesn't mean that there might be nature or nurture in other ways, but from a biological standard of left versus right, it doesn't really exist. So why do we have to have left versus right? And why can't we start thinking of the world as Bill Nye the Science Guy being this amazing DJ about to lay some sick beats? Right? So, and this leads me back to growth hacking, and this is going to be, I'm going to kind of allude to why this is important, is a growth hacker is a person, so this is the original term, a growth hacker is a person whose true north is always growth. So true north is always growth. The original term doesn't say anything about marketing or design or anything, any technical. It's about growth, right? So growth hackers have to have growth mindset. And growth mindset is really, really big in education. Growth mindset, so basically there's two different ideas right now in education on people and how students learn. If you're in high school, you might have had some people talk to you about growth mindset and fixed mindset. So fixed mindset, basically there's a Stanford professor, Carol Reck, who does a lot of studies, and she's the one that came up with the term growth mindset. And so the two different mindsets are fixed mindset. Fixed mindset people look at failure as a determination of how smart they are. So if I fail, it's because I'm not smart enough. Where a growth mindset person views failure as a springboard into growth. They actually welcome failure. And what happens is that they did a study on this. So in Stanford and all these different places, they're using the scientific method, right? They studied this, and what they did is they took a bunch of students and they put them into a room, and into two different rooms, so they had two different test rooms, and basically what they did is they gave their students an IQ test, a pretty hard IQ test. And half of the students, they praised on how well they did. They said, oh, you are so smart. Like, Johnny, you are the smartest person in the world, right? The other half, they gave feedback on their effort. You know what? You might not have gotten it, but you tried really, really hard. And I really appreciate that effort that you put. And by just doing this test, so that they started doing the IQ test, and the actual test that they were trying to do, the experiment that they're going to do is how did the students react after that test? So after they took the IQ test, they gave all of the students a problem. That was exceedingly harder, way harder than the IQ test they had just taken, or the test that they had just done. And out of the two groups, 90% of the students that they gave praise to based upon their effort tried to do the harder challenge. Where fixed mindset, they didn't want to do it. 90%. So think about, I mean, even if you just take this away from this talk, how are you talking to your colleagues? Are you praising them based on how well you did, or are you praising them based on how much effort they put? How do you talk to your kids? And how do you even talk to yourself? So to put this kind of in more perspective of what fixed versus growth mindset is there's two different types of people out there. And if you are fixed mindset, yes, there is hope for you. You can be converted into growth mindset. But there's two different types of mindset. So let's say there's a person they think that they're not good at math. There's one person that will just say the fixed mindset to say, you know what, I'm just really, really bad at math. I'm a right-brained individual. I'm artistic. And I'm never going to be good at math. There's something biologically wrong with me, and I'm okay with that. And that's completely false. You might not be the next Albert Einstein, but you can grow. You can learn from this experiment. While a growth mindset individual, they might jump into it, and often, a lot of the times, these are actually our C's and D students, although we don't believe that, but actually I've seen this over and over again. Growth mindset people are ones that jump in full feet, they're okay to fail, and they're saying, hey, you know what? I might fail right now, but if I get this later, I'm gonna apply it to my business or to my life later on, and that this failure process was actually a pretty cool thing. Again, that failure is okay. And a person who's a growth hacker has to embrace failure, because a growth hacker is a person whose true north is growth. Now, there's a lot of, growth hacking is actually a buzzword out there right now. There's a lot of articles on Business Insider and all sorts of different things about what growth hacking is. And I can tell you that a lot of those articles are false. That growth hacking isn't a get-rich-fast scheme. It isn't overnight, and it isn't easy. So what I mean by that, if you search online for growth hacking, you'll see a lot of articles on like how to become a millionaire in 5 days, how to get 1,000 million trillion Instagram followers and make money. And all of this stuff is absolutely, completely fake. And that's why I'm doing this talk today, is because it's really making me mad. Growth hacking is hard work. It requires patience, and it's open-minded. And it isn't always linear. A lot of times we believe that growth is always going up. But just like this graph on the screen, there's dips and valleys, and sometimes you fall flat on your face, and that's okay. Growth hacking is a person who has all sorts of disciplines that they're interested in, be it art, be it business, be it programming, be it all sorts of different things, and they figure out a way to somehow overlap them, and in the middle, what you have is a growth hacker who's always looking to grow using what I believe is guess, test, and learn, a boiled down scientific method. So you're probably hopefully like, okay, I'm kind of interested, but I'm still confused. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to apply this. And so right now I'm going to apply this kind of back basic to the basic principles of business. And so all these questions that you have are really good. Because what happens with growth hacking is that it's all about experimentation. It's about trying things and failing. But there's a caveat to that. Sometimes what happens is that if you aren't directing yourself and you're not very disciplined, you'll end up like Daffy Duck, hitting a tree over and over and over again, because you're focusing on the wrong experiments and the wrong things. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of point you in the right direction. So I have a question of why are there businesses? Why do businesses exist, and then why are you even here today? And I believe it's because the world, if we like it or not, is actually a pretty hard place. It's cold and it's lonely sometimes, and that we and our clients and other individuals are like this skier trying to go uphill, and we don't seem to go anywhere. And that businesses and that people were here to be the answer to that problem. That people have pain points. And that our product, or us, is the steak that our mother or father gave us after we got beat up at school. Or beat up after a hard day of work. Now, if none of this still interests you and you're only about money, which is fine, here's some things that you should maybe digest. That 54% people would pay more for better customer service. And if that doesn't strike you enough, 2/3 of people would pay 15% more for guaranteed better customer service. So my question is how can you maybe do some experiments in your business to have better customer service? Because if you were able to figure out maybe doing a few small tweaks and a few small experiments and guarantee a better customer service, you have potentially 15% more revenue instantaneously, which is pretty powerful. And so where I like to start is, I'm going to talk about this really quickly, I look at the sales funnel. So this is a sales funnel. And if you don't know what the sales funnel is that on the top of the funnel, so all sales go down this funnel, and at the top of the sales is outreach. So that's like social media. And then as a person goes down, they start to maybe start to subscribe to a newsletter, and then they convert to a sale, and then at the very bottom, they are a customer that's loyal to you. And so what happens though is a lot of times in business is that we focus on the very top funnel. There's a lot of social media marketers out there, right? And I'm not bagging on social media marketing. I think it's a wonderful thing. But we tend to focus, and a lot of those people focus on the top of the funnel, expanding our brand. And we neglect the people that actually have given us money before. And so with my I have created a framework. So this is a sales pitch. I'm pitching you right now. I promise you I'm not going to sell you anything. But I'm so passionate about this. And I think that there's a lot of bad material out there about growth hacking. And that's my goal right now, is to to defeat that. Is that basically I have a framework that I've created on how to do experiments for this sales funnel. And so I'm going to be doing a webinar in a few weeks about that. So if you want to sign up or go to that URL, that's fine. I promise you it's going to be an hour long. I'm not going to try to sell you on anything. But anyway, so growth hacking is all about the sales funnel. It's focusing on metrics and how to improve. And I'll put this slide back up later if everyone's interested. Don't worry. Again, it all boils down to guess, test, and learn. And for me, I focus on the sales funnel. So right now I'm going to give you some examples of people doing growth hacking in the wild. And I'm going to give you examples from goodui.org. If you're interested in anything I'm saying at all, and you want to grow your business, or if you're interested in UX and UI design, these are people that you should absolutely follow. So what they did, they focused on a pain point. And they're going to be focusing in this example on the bottom of the funnel. And their pain point is that there's just tons of bad and terrible customer service out there today. Like, has anyone tried to find the phone number to call Spotify and ever had an issue with Spotify and try to call them? It's impossible to find. Or Amazon, they bury their number so far down. And it's just because of all sorts of different reasons, but bad customer service, right? Sorry, Spotify, if you're watching this. And so what this company did or this group did, is that they want to come up with an experiment. And their experiment was that they're going to create a guess, and they're going to guess if we set expectations, then we're going to make more money. If we set good expectations for our customers off the bat, then we'll make a profit. So if you look on the left and the right, it's just one minor change. On the left, it says last active 2 hours ago. Wow, real impressive, guys, right? 2 hours, that's a good job. While the other one is we respond to you and your needs within 2 minutes, setting an expectation. Then they guessed, or they test. They test it by doing a classic A/B test. So if you don't know what an A/B test is, it's basically where you send half of your users to one page and half of the users to another page, and you try to see who converts more or who does whatever. You basically try to manipulate them and see who does that action that you want more. And what did they learn from this? They learned that just by changing this one line of text, that they were able to get 17% more sales on this one product page. Now, does that 17% seem awfully close to the 15% I just talked about with 2/3? About guaranteed better customer service? Guaranteed better customer service. They respond to setting an expectation of 2 minutes, right? Now they've tried to, and this is we're going to allude to other things, is that growth hacking, again, it isn't always linear. You're not going to always grow. The same company tried to do another test, an A/B test. One of them, it's really hard to read. On the left one, it has add to product, and the right one, they're trying to set up expectations of free shipping that's going to ship within so many days, and if you don't like it, you're going to get your money back. And from this test, they actually saw no change, or a very small amount, about 3%. And then sometimes it's an utter failure. And I'm sorry about the gray on the white for the source. It's terrible, my bad. But sometimes they fail. And in this case, these people were trying to make it more personal, make this page more personal. And it just absolutely didn't work. So what we're going to do now is I started off in an interactive way. And this is actually the most I ever blurb. I'm hands-on learning and all this stuff. So this is weird to me. But everyone, you should have a piece of paper on your desk and some pens. So I want you to grab a piece of paper and grab some pens. So we're going to kick it old school and go back to first grade and kindergarten. And what I want you to do is I want you to take this piece of paper and I want you to fold it like a hot dog. So fold it like a hot dog. Okay. And then once you have your amazing hot dog, I want you to fold it like a hamburger. Hamburger. Then I want you to open it back up and take the pen that you have, and in the top corner of each of the box on one side, so one side only, I want you to write a small number. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each corner of the box, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an experiment, and this is an ideation stage. So in school what I teach is a lot of ideation and how to come up with ideas. And we're going to do a growth hack, a guess, test, and learn. So what are we going to do is we're going to implement a Google Venture method of coming up with ideas, which is called Crazy Eights. But we're only going to do half of it. So Crazy Eights is there's 4 boxes on one side and 4 boxes on the other side, right? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you an exercise on how to come up with 8 ideas in 8 minutes. But this one we're going to do 4 ideas. So here's the game that we're going to play. We're going to redesign the layout of a TV remote. Now, I want you to think, okay, so you're thinking about a TV remote, how it looks like, right? I want you to throw all ideas and all expectations of what a TV remote should look like out the window. And I want you to be as creative as possible. Maybe your TV remote is a glove. Maybe it's a flying contraption. I don't know what your TV remote is, but it's completely different than what you see today. And so here's the only caveat though, is that you have 4 boxes. I'm going to give you 1 minute per box to, as fast as possible, draw out a design. So 1 minute you're going to draw in this box, the next minute you're going to draw a new design, and the next box, and the next box, and the next box. So the idea is to be as fast as possible, to not filter yourself and get in your way. There are no dumb ideas. They're all rock stars, and you're giving me lots of effort, which I appreciate. Appreciate your effort on this. So are you ready? Pencils to the paper. You're going to have 1 minute for one box to design a TV remote. Ready, set, go. 1 minute. "30 seconds left. Be as detailed as possible. What colors does it have? What's the on and off button look like? Is there an on and off button? Does it need an on and off button? Think about the shapes. And stop. Next box. Ready, set, and go. Box number 2. Can you talk to your remote? Does your remote call you or do your dishes for you or maybe your laundry? And stop. Next box. Ready, set, and go. And stop. Last one. Make it your best one. You can do anything for a minute. Ready, set, and go. And stop, pencils down. So that's probably pretty tough, right? So imagine doing that 4 more times. So what you just did is you didn't do, again, this is going to be a pseudoscience. It's not completely perfect, but you're coming up with guesses. You're guessing on which way, the best way to design a TV remote. And the next thing you would do is you test it. So there's different ways to test this. You can either ask, you can give this to someone else, ask them for a review, right? Maybe you design something even more in depth, or you do personal reflection. I like this one, but I don't like this one, right? And then you learn from it. So you just did your test, you made guesses, your guesses, learning from it, from either getting feedback or testing it by getting feedback and then learning from those results. Okay? So that's one way that hopefully, even if you don't like anything else that I've been saying, that you can apply this into your design process. Maybe you do some Google design sprints. Guess, test, and learn. Okay? So last thing I want to leave off on is we're going to look at some personal studies that I've been doing, and to just kind of show you that not everything has to be design related, that sometimes some of it's content related. So in the world of Twitter, if you know anything about social media, there's a lot of terrible direct messages. So whenever I follow someone on Twitter, they always give me these terrible messages that are obviously bots, right? And they're so bad out there that people just like, they don't care. Like there's no personalization behind it at all. Like my name isn't Mike, my name is Miles. And it's just like, this is bad outreach, right? And it's just gross. And I hate it, and it's all sorts of different things. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a guess. I'm guessing that there's a reason why people are using these bots, but I think that I can do it better. Like I want to implement this tool that everyone's like, this is gross and disgusting and I hate it, and I want to see if I can use it for good. So I made a guess, and my guess is that if I use an automated direct message on Twitter, that I'll be able, so the top of the funnel, people who are just starting to follow me, that I'll be able to get 5% of people to respond. So out of 100 people that I send this direct message to, 5% are going to respond to it. And we're going to initiate in a conversation. So I tested it. And the way I tested it is I had this bot that basically, whenever someone followed me, I'd send them a direct message, but I made it really personal, because all those other ones are super impersonal. And so I wanted to put it back on the person that's following me. And I came up with a question. And it's completely truthful. And what I said is basically, boiled down version, hey, I'm a teacher, I work with 70 entrepreneurs, and I was just wondering, what do you wish you would have learned in high school? And what I learned from that was tons of information. I learned not only what the problems and the trends were, like that a lot of them felt like they wish they had been able to overcome fear or learn networking skills. And I was able to engage in meaningful conversations, because social media marketing, the key word of social media marketing is social. Engagement. And often marketers, we forget this. But not only that, I also learned that I was able to blow my estimate of 5% out of the water. I got 16.6% of people to respond to me. And not only to respond to me, but to have amazing conversations with. And then they engage with me more and more. So now they've gone from this top of the funnel that I've never talked to before and starting to learn about me, to the middle of the funnel, and now they're starting to engage with me. But I wanted to see, can I repeat this for a client? And I didn't want to do it for any client. I wanted to choose a client that was the worst idea in the world. And the client I chose to do this test on was a water filtration company. Who wants to follow a water filtration company on Twitter? Probably no one. And then who wants to even talk to people about water filtration online, right? And the reason why I chose this is because there's a movie called Objectify, which there's a quote in it. I don't remember who says it, but they basically say, if you design for the extremes, the middle will take care of itself. So I designed for the personal extreme, which I know I can replicate for someone who maybe is going to be doing speeches and conferences, and I'm going to do consulting work for them. But then I also wanted to take the least sexy product in the world, water filtration, and see if I can use the same method. So what did I learn from it? I learned that by crafting a message that made it about the person, so saying, hey, you know what? We're doing research, we're doing industry research, and I'm just wanting to know, have you ever used a water filtration system like this before? And these water filtration systems are like $2,000, mind you. And I was able to get 6% direct message, which still beat my expectation of 5%. So out of 100 people, 6 people responded to me, and they were openly engaging in conversations like, no, I haven't done this before because of X. Don't you think that X might be a good thing to know for my client? This is like invaluable information. And to put it into perspective, that yes, email marketing is a great tool. But a lot of email marketers, they get about 40 to 50% open rate, but on the things that they're sending through, they get about a 6% click-through rate, which is still good though. So you send an email, 3% of them are going to go to your page and do whatever. But an even more perspective is that on average for Google, or on Twitter, whenever you tweet something, Kim Kardashian tweets something, Kanye West tweets something, generally speaking, they get a 2% engagement rate. So 2% of their followers engage with that tweet. So just by sending this direct message, I was able to 3x the amount of effort that I would have to have taken. I'd had to tweet 3 or 4 times as much to actually get that same engagement and to start these meaningful conversations. By using a sloppy method, one that people are using in a terrible way, I was able to jumpstart. Now again, this is guess, test, and learn. This isn't the actual scientific method. There isn't peer review, but I'm reviewing it, right? And actually, I don't even know what the percentage is on, and this is going to be my next test, is I don't know what the percentage is on doing a terrible tweet. What if I do a terrible DM, direct message, that's just, thanks for the follow. Will I still get that 6%? Maybe or maybe not. That's something that I have to discover. Guess, test, and learn. That everything in life, your personal life, you can guess, you can test, and you can learn from it. You can create guesses on how well or how to study better. You can create tests on how to basically make your business run more smoothly. But the whole point is to focus on growth. So before I leave, what I want to do is I want to leave you with some experts that I really admire. If you want to take a picture of this, write it down real fast. So the first one is thegoodui.org. So that's the one that I gave examples from. And then there's another one, Justine Jordan. I saw her speak at MozCon, which MozCon is a conference for internet marketers. She focuses on email marketing and does an exceptional job. And the last two, so the Jacob, I don't know how would you say that name? Jacob?
Oh, Jacob.
Jacob? He's the one that runs the CRO website, and the very last guy, Ross Simmons, who I absolutely think he has the coolest Twitter handle in the whole world, the coolest cool. He actually does a lot of growth hacking experiments, and he focuses on going into places that no one else will go. So he was one of the first people to market on Reddit. Everyone said, don't go to Reddit because they will tear you apart. And he wanted to be torn apart, and he wanted to figure out why. And he did, and he's making so much money doing that through experimentation, guess, test, and learn. So more resources. These are kind of my personal resources. Again, I'm going to be doing a webinar on a growth hacking sheet. If you want to do that, please, you're going to be taken to a landing page. It's kind of a game where you can send it to as many friends as possible. Again, my whole goal on this is to tear down this idea of what growth hacking is and make it something that people can use and apply to their business. There's also, I wrote a blog article about conversion rate optimization, or some books on that. But if you're going to choose between the two, I'd highly suggest the first one because it's going to be like the second one of this series, I guess, now. Okay? So before we leave, what I want you to do is just kind of talk about how these cats are. That there's this idea of curiosity kills the cat, right? And that's mainly Schrodinger's cat, right? But I want you to think about the world and think about it in a way that you can play with everything. To not be so worried about what box you are in, but to view the world with curiosity and think about the skills that you have and the skills that you want to learn and how you can apply that into a completely unique way that no one's ever seen before. So if you want to follow me, this is my information. It's milessebesta.com or milessebesta at Twitter. I often hang out here as well. If you find me and you want to yell at me about how terrible this presentation was and how I'm wrong, I'm generally upstairs every Monday through Friday. So yeah, that's my presentation. I hope that you learned something from it, and I hope you enjoyed it.